It's Rhema, Brekky on your Friday morning, 7.5 minutes after 8. Good to have your company, Mick Wright, with you through until 9. Of course, Colton Dixon there, the love I have for you. And being the second Friday morning of the month, we've got joined by our great friend Kelli Kieselbach. We are naturally speaking this morning, looking at chronic fatigue syndrome. Almost couldn't get that one out there. But chronic fatigue syndrome is what we are checking out this morning. Kelli, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you going this morning?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you. All the better to be seeing your face here via Zoom and, of course, having a bit of a chat. And look, this is a huge topic this morning too, isn't it? Chronic fatigue syndrome.
It is.
It just seems to be so pervasive these days. And thankfully, there's a lot more people, particularly in the health field, that are talking about it. Finally, and a lot of people actually have a name put to some things that they've probably been battling with for a very long time. So to get into it this morning, I guess if no one's really, up to speed with it, what exactly is chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, sure. So chronic fatigue syndrome is considered a neuroimmune condition that affects the whole body. So neuroimmune meaning that involves the nervous system and the immune system, but it actually involves a lot more than that. And it is characterized by sort of this unrelenting, persistent fatigue that tends to be made worse by any sort of physical or mental exertion. So basically doing anything. And often the actual medical term for it is myalgic encephalomyelitis. Hence why we just say chronic fatigue syndrome. Right. But yeah, literally that means muscle pain and brain inflammation. So that, that's kind of what we're looking at, and you'll often see it written as MECFS to encapsulate all of those aspects.
Yep, absolutely. And how is it diagnosed, or is this a bit of a tricky one?
Well, it is a tricky one because there's no one test or there's no blood work or anything you can do that says yes, you have chronic fatigue syndrome. It's essentially a process of exclusion of all other causes, and that can take a lot of time. So it is quite arduous and difficult for people. But typically the diagnostic criteria is that the fatigue needs to be new onset. It needs to have been present for 6 months or more. And it tends to involve that worsening of symptoms when you exert yourself, and fatigue that's not relieved by rest or sleep as well. Mm-hmm. And that needs to be present alongside some sort of cognitive impairment. So we talk about brain fog or memory difficulties, and orthostatic intolerance. So orthostatic intolerance means that your body struggles to regulate your blood pressure and your blood flow when you go from sitting to standing, when you're upright. So you get dizzy, you get fatigued, you get brain fog. So yeah, it's really just excluding all other causes, and then do you have this set of symptoms for 6 months or more?
Yeah. So like you said, it's really a question of, eliminating pretty much anything else around, because there are quite a few conditions that can really mimic chronic fatigue syndrome, isn't there? So, being able to do that and get some sort of a diagnosis really does help the cause for a lot of people, hey?
It does, yeah. And it can be very tricky because, like you say, there can be a lot of overlapping conditions or overlapping symptoms. So, yeah, it can be quite difficult.
Now, speaking of that, what are some of the actual key signs and symptoms for CFS?
Yeah, so I mean, there is actually like hundreds of symptoms that people might experience. So the ones that we just mentioned, so that persistent, unrelenting fatigue with some sort of cognitive impairment, so difficulty thinking, concentrating, and that orthostatic intolerance. Most people will, so there's those 4 or 5 really core symptoms that sort of everyone will have, but most people will report sort of 20 to 30 different symptoms, and they span the whole body. So besides what we've already mentioned, there'll be difficulties with sleep. So people, despite being so tired, they could experience insomnia. There's usually often digestive issues like nausea, bloating, food intolerances, muscle pain, headaches, migraines, joint pain, heart palpitations, temperature regulation issues, sore throat, tender lymph nodes. So it really does span the whole body and can be quite intense. People will often describe it like they've they've run a marathon with a flu and a hangover. Like that's how they feel.
Wow.
So yeah, you can just imagine the worst flu you've ever had living with that day to day.
Oh, yeah, just that just sounds horrid. So, I mean, look, for people who are actually listening in this morning who may be experiencing that, oh, man, we feel for you 100%.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
make sure you stay listening, though. We will give you some tips on how to get around some of that as well. Now, look, what are the causes of chronic fatigue syndrome?
Well, when people develop chronic fatigue syndrome, there's often a clear event or something that's happened that we talk about as the trigger. So this will often be, a viral infection is very common, a season of high stress, a surgery, a physical or an emotional trauma. And often it might be not just one of those things, but maybe two or three of those things in a row. And yeah, we refer to these as triggers. So these are the things that kind of switch on the illness, so to speak. But a little bit different to them what causes the condition to continue on.
Mm.
So when we talk about the causes of CFS, we're looking at the interaction between the digestive system, the nervous system, and the immune system. So we refer to this as the gut-brain immune axis. And the way that these systems interact or don't function correctly is what can drive the condition. So you're talking about the immune system doesn't function properly, the nervous system can become hyperreactive, the microbiome, the gut environment is not right, and then there's impaired energy production in all of that as well. So, those are the key things that we'll be looking at when we talk about causes as opposed to triggers.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, that isn't it? Because, like you say, there is a difference between causes and triggers, and I know with some of the triggers, different things, like you say, it could be anything from a medication that somebody's taking or some sort of a viral infection or that they've had in the past, maybe Epstein-Barr virus and different things, which is incredibly common. So many people have that already, but a lot of people may never ever have any symptoms or anything like that. It'll just stay dormant in the body. But again, very, very interesting. The triggers first, but then there are all the ongoing things after that. So I guess, it's helpful to be aware of both or more of what causes it at an ongoing thing.
Well, when we're looking at treatment strategies, then the causes are what we're focused on, because if we can sort of address and rebalance and fix some of that underlying cause or driving factor, then we can get some really great results for people. But the triggers are often what sets it in motion, and typically it will be either a virus or some form of trauma.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We are talking with our great friend Kelli Kieselbach this morning. Naturally speaking, we are talking about chronic fatigue syndrome. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more of Kelli K right after this. This is Rhema Brekky. It's your Friday morning. It's Rhema Brekky on your Friday morning, playing all the latest and the greatest in Christian music. Sheena Taylor there, Peace Be Still. We are talking with our great friend Kelli Kieselbach. Naturally speaking with Kelli this morning, and of course we are chatting about chronic fatigue syndrome, a huge topic, and we want to get back into it this morning. So Kelli, who is actually most affected by it?
Yeah, well, I mean, anyone can develop chronic fatigue syndrome, but it does seem to be a high proportion of women. So 75 to 80% will be women. There is a lot of onset in those teenage years, so sort of between 12 and 20, and then quite a lot in the 30s as well, 30s and 40s. But it really can affect everyone from children through to the elderly. There are, interestingly, some personality traits that have been picked up as being quite common. So people who tend to be very driven or would class themselves as perfectionists, or maybe in the past we would have talked about, the type A personality, those type of people tend to be more prone. And which is really interesting. And I think this is where people really, really struggle when they become unwell, is because, people can have a real misunderstanding that people are just lazy or lack motivation. But no, these people are generally very high achievers, very driven under normal circumstances when they're healthy. And there may be some hereditary component as well. It may run in families. It's, some evidence points to that.
Yeah. Very, very interesting one there you mentioned about the people who are really driven internally can often be the ones who are most affected by chronic fatigue syndrome. So, yeah, you get a lot of frustration as well, don't you, with that? You're flat out on your back.
So much frustration, yeah.
Yeah, you're just so busy and driven, and next thing, bam, you're kind of out for the count almost. So that would be absolutely a tough one for them. Now, how many people in Australia you think are affected by CFS?
Yeah, well, roughly 250,000, so 250,000 are estimated to have a diagnosis. So these are people who have actually been through that diagnostic process. 25% of those are housebound or bedbound, so they're quite severe. So it's too difficult for them to leave the house, or for some to even leave the bed. And this doesn't include people with long COVID. So there's a lot of overlap between long COVID and ME/CFS. And many will consider long COVID as a bit of a subgroup or a subset of CFS. And if we looked at long COVID as well, it would be double that. So we'd be looking at 500,000.
Wow.
People.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of people, isn't it? And it really does affect not just the person, but it's all of the people around them. Hey, their work life, maybe schooling, studying, their family, friends, their whole social world just kind of implodes, doesn't it, at times?
It does. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good thing, that is for sure. Now, as a naturopath and a nutrition, of course, what are some of the treatments that you recommend? And sort of on a scale, where would you, I guess severity-wise, you'd see people with CFS? I mean, you probably see them at all different spectrums on that scale, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got clients who are, still able to work in some capacity, still able to have sort of a level of quality of life, and they might, be on that more mild side. They're managing their symptoms quite well. And then others who are very, very sick and, struggle to get out of bed, struggle to have a conversation, struggle to do even things like read a book or listen to music, or, those kind of things can become quite difficult. So in terms of treatment and treatment approach, obviously, as a naturopathic nutritionist, we're looking at things holistically. So because this is quite a complex whole body condition, I feel like we're really well suited to be able to help these people, because we're looking at the person in front of us, for one. So, and it is a condition that of great individuality, I would say, can manifest differently for each person. So we're looking at the person in front of us, what their needs and priorities are, but we're also looking at getting to those underlying root cause. So briefly, just before I talked about, the gut-brain immune axis. And so as a treatment strategy, I'd be looking at what can we do to support your gut health and to restore things there? How can we regulate the immune system, the nervous system, and support your energy production as well? And this is where I find herbal medicine is amazing, because we have some amazing tools in our toolbox to help with immune system regulation and nervous system regulation, but also providing people with those nutrients that they need to just give them that foundational support to help everything function better, because ultimately what we're wanting to do is to change that internal environment and rebalance people's biochemistry so that they actually feel better.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I guess on a more practical note, if I was diagnosed today, in terms of the first things I would do is, number one, I would focus on the fundamentals. So, sleep, nutrition, hydration, those sorts of things. Just start with the real basics. I would also learn about pacing. So pacing is a term that we use. It's a strategy that helps us manage our energy and to help prevent what we call crashes. So to stagger activities so that people can manage their energy better. And then when I would also reach out to a practitioner who is knowledgeable in this area, who can start to guide you on some more specific treatment strategies that can help you move out of this and improve your quality of life.
Yeah, and look, probably the best thing to do if you, like, after you have had an actual diagnosis is, some people, I guess the temptation is to, jump on a Dr. Google and,
yes.
or any of your favorite health influencers there's just a plethora of them online these days on all the social media programs. But getting hold of a professional is really the best port of call, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And there's so many reasons for this. One, you're going to have access to credible information and, learn what's actually relevant for you. You're going to understand what's personalized for you, what does your body need, what's going on for you, and really have that nailed down. It's also going to prevent a whole lot of overwhelm and confusion, because particularly for a condition like this, which is relatively still not well understood in the medical field, side of things. So there's a lot of anecdotal, evidence.
Sure.
So, lots of people who this worked for them, this didn't work for them, what to do. And that can be helpful, but it can also really be quite confusing and overwhelming. So having someone to help guide you through that and do things strategically to make sure you're getting the right dose of things, you're getting the right form, you're taking things for long enough to see the difference, you're targeting all the various areas. It really is so important, and it can make the world of difference.
Absolutely. That's some great advice there. Now, if people want to, jump on and maybe have a look at some of your wonderful resources, maybe get in touch and different things like that, how can they go about that?
So the best place to go is my website, so kellik.com.au, so kellik.com.au. And from there, you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Kelli_Naturopath, and you'll be able to see a whole host of posts there. I also offer a free phone consult initial for new clients as well. So if you've never seen a naturopath, nutritionist before, have no idea what we do, what the process looks like, then you can jump on one of those calls, and I'm more than happy to chat through, and answer any questions that you have as well.
Yep, amazing. Kelli, as always, thank you so much for joining us for this huge topic this morning, chronic fatigue syndrome. I mean, look, we could do another 8 shows on this and still be have a whole lot more to say as well. So again, if you want to find Kelli, you can just do a quick Google search as well, Kelli K, and of course you can find her at all the socials as well, and jump on and again, as she mentioned there, that first phone call for brand new clients is a freebie. So that is quite amazing. That's a great service you offer. Looking forward to seeing you next month, Kelli. We'll have another big topic for sure. So can't wait.
Excellent.
All right, that is our great friend Kelli Kieselbach there. Stay with us. We've got more music on the way, but up next, we've got the 8:30 news. It's Rhema Brekky on your Friday morning.